Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Abuja. It has been a very loaded past week activities from the National Assembly and across the country. Well, there's been a lot to watch out for in the National Assembly over the scrutiny of the 2025 budget and some of the drama that has ensued between the lawmakers and the different heads of the MDAs, most of which have gotten a lot of Nigerians talking. Well, the 2025 budget defense session for the Nigerian police force turned a bit dramatic. One of the major highlights of the budget defense procedures that we saw over the past week, and there was a heated dispute among lawmakers over perceived inconsistencies in the budget and disrupted proceedings we saw happen later on. The tension escalated when Senator Onyekachi Nwobonyi of Ebonyi North, a principal officer of the APC, stormed out of the session in protest.
For effective planning and execution. Approve the creation of a special operations account to enable the force to swiftly respond to unanticipated security emergencies and support ongoing operations. Increase appropriations for both overhead and capital expenditures to enhance the force's operational efficiency. Leverage legislative influence to ensure the timely and complete release of appropriated funds for the 2025 budget. Allocate funds for constructing 5 recently approved Sona Police headquarters in Anambra, Zone 13, Katsina, Zone 14, Maiduguri, Zone 15, Yenagoa, Zone 16, and Akure, Zone 17. Noted. Provide targeted funding.
Observation, point of order, Mr. Chairman.
We don't have a copy. Then I will leave. I will leave a copy. What are we reading now? What do you want to do? We are acting in the head.
Mr. Chairman.
If the Inspector General of Police is reading an abridged version of his speech, it is born out of our parliamentary procedures through a standing motion, through a motion move, through in this sitting, and members unanimously agree that the Inspector General of Police should read an abridged, should summarize an abridged version. So I think I have the floor. I have the floor. We cannot act. We cannot be kids here. We must be recognized to speak. What we are displaying is what Nigerian does not even want. As a member of the House of Representatives, there is a procedure for you to be recognized to speak, not to be interjecting unnecessarily. That is one. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, the procedures of sitting, he have made presentation regarding to 2024 and it is embedded in the speech circulated to us for those of us that came here on time.
But that was what we saw on one hand. The following day, the Inspector General of Police, Kade Agbedo, has been speaking about the disruption. He said the drama was unnecessary and avoidable. He clarified that the document he presented was shared with all committee members beforehand. Take a listen to him.
I want to make this clarification that the IG did not present a document that is different to what was circulated to members. 2 documents were circulated. I was presenting the summary. Probably those senators don't have the the copies that I was presenting, but the copies were available for them. They were just asked to be served the copy, and there wouldn't have been any drama. So that's why I call it an unnecessary drama. It was quite unnecessary. There is nothing new in the challenges presented. For a very long time, the Nigerian police has been facing three critical challenges. One is inadequate appropriation, which limits modernization and service delivery. Two is the restrictive envelope budget system, which fails to account for the expansive, innovative demands of the police. And the third is the delay in fund releases, and sometimes incomplete releases of funds appropriated to the police.
That is the Inspector General of Police explanation to what happened. And don't forget that this is not perhaps the first of, you heard what happened with the Jambridge Professor Oloide when he also faced the lawmakers back and forth over some of the details of the presented budget by President Bola Tinubu. Scrutiny ongoing at the National Assembly to ensure that there is understanding that the figures are presented by the executive, and that is being given to the lawmakers. There is some understanding and how the monies are going to be spent. Well, during the week, the federal government confirmed its acceptance of an invitation to join the intergovernmental organization BRICS as a partner country, and said its decision was part of the effort to foster international collaboration. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says Nigeria's action also underscores its commitment to leveraging economic opportunities and advancing strategic partnerships that align with Nigeria's development objectives. Well, Brazil was quoted to have said that, quote, with the world's sixth largest population and Africa's largest, as well as being one of the continent's major economies, Nigeria shares convergent interests with other members of BRICS. Brazil's government released a statement of inviting Nigeria to be a partner. It went further to say it plays an active role in strengthening South-South cooperation and in reforming global governance issues that are top priorities during Brazil's current presidency. Well, as that was happening, President Bola Tinubu is being in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates for the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. The trip to the Middle East is at the invitation of the President of the UAE, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. But what does these foreign relations and trade arrangements mean for the team in Nigerian population? The money in your pocket, the food on your table, those are the bottom line. In all of this, how will the average person benefit? Well, one man that has consistently spoken up about the need for Nigeria to join the BRICS, but don't forget that the BRICS organization is a global entity of community of nations to counter as a counterweight or counterbalance to the G7, which is mostly of the Western nation. Well, Mr. Falana is being an advocate for Nigeria joining BRICS committee, and is live for us tonight on the program. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana, and indeed it's good to have you join us tonight on some major national issues.
It's my pleasure. Sure.
Well, of course, today, Mr. Falana, we understand that the Niger State Emergency Management Agency in SEMA has put the number of deaths from the tanker explosion at Diko Junction in Gurara local government area of Niger State, which happened yesterday, at 86. Of the deceased, 80 have been buried in a mass grave at the Diko Primary Health Care premises, while 5 others were handed over to their families for burial within the town, and 1 individual succumbed to injuries at the Diko PHC, where President Bola Tinubu will set up a high-powered committee to investigate the recurrence of tanker explosions and implement safety measures to forestall the tragedy. Where Tanker Drivers Association have already, they are speaking in respect of this. But Mr. Falana, what a tragedy for our nation. Over 80 people. It's sad day indeed, isn't it?
Well, it is very unfortunate that we had this tragedy again yesterday with regards to what happened in December with respect to stampede arising from the distribution of rice and other materials, for our people. For me, yes, it's good that followed the action taken by the Niger state government. I'm in touch with the Nigeria-BRICS Association, MENA branch, to see what can be done by lawyers to ensure that the family members of those who lost their lives and those who suffered injuries, are compensated, because the vehicles involved, ought to have been insured, and if they are not insured, the government will have to take responsibility. We can't have tragedies of this nature without taking care of the victims. And I have made this point abundantly clear. This is not the first time we are having explosion of this nature. Once a tanker falls in the country, you expect the security forces, including NEMA, to move to the side and prevent disasters. But over and over again, these agencies appear to not to respond adequately. Take the stampede in December. I have made the point that the law says the police shall provide security in every public meeting, during a protest or rally. Now, NEMA is also requested by law to take some preventive measures to, ensure that we do not have these disasters. And so this time around, my organization, ASCAP, is going to collaborate with the Bar Association in Niger State to ensure that we cooperate with the government in the investigation being conducted, and then ensure that victims are compensated adequately. Because we must start somewhere. We cannot allow the system all the time to blame the victims. A video is circulating, people went to draw fuel, or they caused the problem, and so on and so forth. But the basic fact with respect to this unavoidable tragedy is the fact that the authorities did not take adequate measures to prevent the explosion. So the government will have to be more proactive. The agencies set up by the government, maintained by the state, to prevent disasters will have to be more proactive. Otherwise, we end up blaming the victims of poverty in the country. And I've made the point. Yes, poverty may be the root cause. Or what you might call the remote cause. But what are the immediate cause? Which is a failure of intelligence, failure of security forces to ensure that once a tanker falls in any part of the country on the road, the police will be expected, security forces are expected to ensure that nobody moves near the site until the tanker is removed. But we simply wait, allow poor people, most of the time out of ignorance or poverty, to move there to draw fuel. And unless we make an example once and for all, it will continue, in the country. And it's unacceptable in a modern society. And since we're operating a capitalist system, somebody will have to be responsible. An agency will have to be responsible. And this is why you have insurance companies to take care of situations of this nature. And if the state does not allow some of these tankers to be insured, the government will have to be responsible.
I don't know what exactly.
And that's the position of the law today.
Yeah, Mr. Falana, I don't know if you can.
Where the government fails to prevent disaster, the government may be asked to pay damages or compensation. That is the law.
Mr. Falana, I don't know how those who have been buried, some of them who are not yet identified, because one will wonder that based on best global practices, when this kind of tragedy happens, bodies are supposed to be identified. People, family members, well-wishers, those who are related to them, should be able to identify who they are. How do you then carry that process on when you cannot identify and they've been buried in a mass grave?
Well, in the village where this incident occurred, those who have lost their loved ones know them. They can give evidence before the panel that has been set up. So that is not difficult. But again, this is where the government must come in. We cannot have a situation where a disaster has occurred without identifying the bodies. You rush to bury them. It's not acceptable. You can still observe, you can still bury the dead in line with religious practices. But it doesn't take years to identify those who were killed in the disaster. And the fact that people are born beyond recognition does not mean that their loved ones may not be able to come out and say, we cannot find some members of our family.
It's sad, and of course, it brings one thing to mind, the state of our roads in the country, and of course, whether or not we have the right ways of transporting this kind of commodities in the different parts of the country.
Again, it depends on the way, the demand of the people on the government. In some parts of the country, tankers are allowed to move in the night to prevent these tragic incidents. And again, whether during the day or at night, if a tanker falls, right, the government must ensure that security forces move there to the side and cordon off the place and prevent people from going there. So that is what is done in any civilized society, including Nigeria. But we are now, it's no longer enough to issue condolence messages and the rest of that. We move on. No. We must make an example of what happened between December and now, because the government has not been made to appreciate that in some of these situations, the government will have to pay damages because of negligence of certain agencies. There was an incident, I think in Kaduna, there was a riot, I think in 2011, a political crisis, and people were killed. People were burnt in their homes. A young lady came to us that my husband was burnt. A man, a 28-year-old man who had just acquired his PhD in geophysics. Of course, we went to the ECOWAS court. And the ECOWAS court said that the government has a responsibility to save the life of every citizen. On that ground, I think at that time the government, the court awarded 10 million naira damages. In another case, a young student, a 15-year-old Nigerian student, was taken out on an excursion in Tema, Ghana. And this boy said, I can't swim. He was made to swim and he got drowned. Then the parents came to us and we approached the ECOWAS court. The ECOWAS court awarded $250,000 against the government of Ghana, not for causing the incident, but for not taking steps to investigate and bring to book the teachers that were responsible for the death of the student. So the government will have to realize that gone are the days when these incidents are simply allowed to go on to happen unchallenged. We are now going to ensure that we demand accountability on the part of the government. If there's a stampede, we must investigate. It's not enough just to roll some people to jail. No, because some of these actions are diversionary. We must now begin to investigate every disaster. We must hold them accountable. We must hold the police accountable and other relevant agencies.
Mr. Falana, let's move to global trade. One thing that you have always clamored for, you wanted Nigeria to be a member of BRICS, but now Nigeria has been invited by Brazil, who is a chair of that organization, to be a partner. We do know now that the number of the membership of BRICS have grown, and also the number of partner countries have also grown. I mean, Nigeria has accepted to be a partner, and Nigeria sees this as a good development. But we do know that the incoming president in the United States, Donald Trump, his body language when it comes to the threat of other economies to his country, and we heard what he said about Canada. We know his position about China. We know his position about countries like India and the rest of the world. What do you think this portends for Nigeria? Partnership, or we should start moving from membership? And in the non-alignment policy in international relations of Nigeria, what do you see about this new movement?
Well, the development is noted, i.e., the partner membership of Nigeria. But that is not enough. So Nigeria ought to be a full-fledged member of BRICS in line with Section 19, subsection E of the Constitution, which has imposed a duty on the government to promote a just world economic order. The drafters of the Constitution knew that we do not have a just world economic order. Hence, Nigeria is required to embark on the promotion of a just world economic order. What you have now, the world economic order is dominated by the West, particularly via the IMF and World Bank. And we have seen that these Bretton Woods institutions have destroyed the economy of Nigeria and the economies of most developing countries. Now there is a challenge that is how to challenge the dollarization of economies of the world. In other words, BRICS want to de-dollarize. BRICS want to promote trading in your local currencies. And I think for me, that is in line with the basic foreign objectives of our country. And for me, you can, because a partner member of BRICS, only has an observer status. It's not a full-fledged member. So you cannot take advantage of the membership. And that is why the government will have to go the whole on and take the membership of that body. With respect to Mr. Donald Trump, it's not even about his body language. He has said characteristically that members of will have to choose between BRICS. The world has to do that. You have a body now that is an alternative to G7. You have a body that is the powerhouse of a body that is considered by members that supply the world, and members that are rich in mineral resources like oil and gas, and so on and so forth. So you cannot ignore the challenge of BRICS. And that is why Nigeria must play its own meaningful role in an organization of that nature. Having regards to the ongoing crisis with respect to the economy. If you now have an opportunity where we can trade in our currency with China, last year, the goods that were brought to Nigeria from China, imports, total $22.6 billion. India, I think about $11.8 billion. Now, if we can now trade, Nigeria and these countries can trade in their currencies. This business of rat race for the dollar will stop to the advantage of the economy. You are going to promote your own currency. You are going to trade in your own currency. And the economy will improve. Because now you have a large market. The members of BRICS today, the 10 members, as well as the partner members, I think about 12 of them, including Nigeria, constitute half of the population of the world and 41% of the world's GDP. So it's a very serious organization. And there is no threat from Mr. Trump that can harass the members of that body. China, India, Indonesia, Brazil, South Africa, and others. Who is Mr. Trump to challenge him? By the way, Mr. Trump had a telephone discussion with the president, premier of China 2 days ago, and he said it was a very good discussion because these countries have become a force to reckon with in global affairs today, in the economy of the world. And so Nigeria has to move quickly to join South Africa, Egypt, and Ethiopia as full-fledged members of that body, so that the dominance of the dollar in our economy will stop. We're going to promote our own economy by trading among countries in the Naira and in their own currency. For instance, Nigeria has just signed and renewed the currency swap with China. Again, only $2 billion. And as I said, trading last year was over $22 billion. So the government will have to go back. Now we're a partner member of BRICS. Can we renegotiate? China and India and Nigeria have also signed an agreement to have currency swap. So we're already taking advantage of the membership of BRICS. And that is why Nigeria will have to join that body, not as a partner member with an observer status. It has to be a full-fledged member so that we can also take advantage of funding for infrastructural development in the new development bank of BRICS.
Mr. Falana,
BRICS is having its own bank, like World Bank, like IMF. But they are not going to destroy the economy of any country because it's going to be on the basis of respect for your sovereignty. And that is why they are promoting your currency.
Mr. Falana, you look at what happened last week.
Yeah.
We saw the meeting or the past days with the leadership of the Chinese and the Nigerian government. We saw the Foreign Affairs Minister of China coming and he met with the Foreign Affairs Minister in Nigeria, met with President Bola Tinubu. In BRICS, China dominates that organization and it has about 70% of that organization's GDP. The entire population and landmass of the countries, or the partner countries or membership countries of BRICS accounts for about 46% of the world's population and 25% of the world's landmass. That means that the BRICS country membership is very, very phenomenal in terms of numbers and in size, but the GDP of those countries is still not as much as you will compare it to the G7. But you look at the upside for Nigeria, our trade relations with China, what we saw with President Modi, PM Modi, when he came to Nigeria, it does look like we are trying to align with some of the big nations in BRICS. But the problem here is that our trade relation with the United States and the domination of the dollar in our economy, when Trump gets into office, what is your biggest fear? How can Nigeria be able to manage this situation such that it doesn't torpedo our economy that is trying to stand on its feet?
So, Sean, any organization like BRICS that does not insist on the devaluation of your currency, but a body that says, we want to respect your currency, we want to promote your currency, we want to trade in your currency, a body that does not say, thou shalt remove subsidies from social services in our country, the body does not say, thou shalt float your currency and allow your currency to be controlled by the so-called market forces. Now, that is a body that, can promote the economic prosperity of our country. So we have a choice now between the World Bank and IMF insisting on devaluation, removal of subsidies, privatization of all public assets in our country, and a body that says, we want to respect your sovereignty, we want to trade in your currency. We're not going to insist that thou shalt meet certain conditionalities before we can make funding available to you. So I think the choice is clear, not just for Nigeria, but for all developing countries, that the time has come for us to take control of our political destiny, of our economic destiny. And for me, that is what BRICS, the opportunities that are available in BRICS. If Nigeria is a full-fledged member,
Indonesia is the latest country to join BRICS. So, Mr. Falana, are you saying that President Bola Tinubu should then now push? We've been invited as a partner nation. Are you saying he should categorically push to be a member, for Nigeria to be a member? Is that what you're saying?
Of course, because like I said, a partner member only has an observer status. But that is where the action is in the world today. We must be there and take our rightful place. And that is why the Nigerian government, President Bola Tinubu, must, go all out in the interest of Nigeria to become a full-fledged member of BRICS, so that you can strengthen the presence of Africa in that body. And with Nigerian membership, going to become members.
All right,
we can have an alternative currency.
Mr. Falana,
in the interest of the global economy.
Yeah, let's take a break, Mr. Falana. But when we come back, I'd like to get your view. The governors of the states have now given their nod to the proposed tax reform bills, albeit they asked for an amendment or the restructuring of the VAT allocation formula, which we're going to be discussing. But you have mentioned the issue of tariffs and how the governments within BRICS have also shown their body language in terms of the burden of the people, of the masses in their country. Now, we are hearing a possibility of the upward review of telecoms tariff. What does this mean for the average person? More money out of their pocket, more body in terms of taxation, or what exactly should the average Nigerian person or the labor be looking forward to in all of this regime that is looming? We'll be right back after this break, everyone. Join us again. With us, Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has been speaking with us on the state of the nation. He's live for us from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana. Let me switch quickly to the matter relating to the tax reform bills as presented by the executive to the National Assembly. One matter that's generated a lot of controversies. But now, a major political bloc in the country that opposed some of the details of those bills are the governors. But we saw a few days ago on Thursday, they came out and said, look, we're endorsing it. We need to make some adjustment. They proposed some adjustment. One area that was a very naughty one was the value-added tax and the sharing formula. There is now a revised formula that has been presented and proposed by the governors. They're asking for a 50% based on equality, a 30% based on derivation, and a 20% based on population. With these, Mr. Falana, some of the governors had argued that if they go by the formula as presented earlier by the committee to the National Assembly, some of them might not be able to pay salaries. But from your own point of view, is this in the interest of the average person? If the subsidies are being removed on petrol and perhaps Nigerians, because the proposition is that the VAT is going to be increased over a period of time from 7.5%, and we see it increase incrementally over a period of time. With all of this proposition, the proposition of the governors, do you think that it meets the yearnings of the average person? All right, so apologies for those technical glitches there. But let me remind you of the position of the governors. There was a communique, and some of them read their position after their meeting. Let me remind you of what they said after their meeting with the Taiwo Yedele-led committee and Zach Adedeji's team. Take a listen.
And the Resolution Tax Committee convened on the 16th of July 2025 to deliberate on critical national issues, including the reform of the Nigeria-BRICS Relations and tax system, and the conclusions.
The forum reiterated its strong support for the comprehensive reform of Nigeria's decade tax laws. Members acknowledged the importance of modernizing the tax system to enhance fiscal stability and align with global best practices.
Two, the forum includes a value-added tax sharing formula to ensure equitable distribution of resources as follows: 50% based on equality, 30% based on realization, and 20% based on population.
Number three, government also agreed that there should be no increase in VAT rate from 7.5% currently, or reduction in corporate income tax from the current 30% and design to maintain economic stability. The board advocated the continued exemption of essential goods of agricultural products from VAT.
All right, you heard some of the positions of the governors at that meeting earlier in the week. But Mr. Falana, I was asking you, do you think that their position and their proposition for a review and a revised version of those bills, do those propositions meet the yearnings of the average person?
62 of the Constitution, which prescribes that the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission shall oversee revenue allocation in Nigeria. Again, can you suggest a new revenue allocation formula without tinkering with Section 162 of the Constitution? I think the President has asked the National Assembly to work with the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice with a view to looking at these areas. But for me, what is important is how to earmark the revenue that will be collected from the taxes to address crisis in the health sector, in the education sector, infrastructural deficit, and so on and so forth. But we must avoid the situation whereby the removal of fuel subsidy has increased the revenue of the three tiers of government without any improvement in the quality of the life of an average citizen in our country. So we need to ensure that the new taxes, or if the bills are passed into law, the interests of the people must be factored in. Right now, the companies that are in the free economic zone by law do not pay taxes, do not pay duties for goods imported to the country by them. That is an area that will have to be addressed. Secondly, it's not enough to increase taxes. We must also address the closure of companies. Because, for instance, last year, according to the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, about 757 companies collapsed. If those companies had not collapsed, they will have continued to pay company taxes. Their workers will be paying income tax. And so when the National Assembly is debating the taxes, we must also address the hostile environment that is forcing companies to close down or to relocate. For me, these are my own observations with respect to the taxes.
And when we wonder, it looks like the political conundrum may have been resolved in all of this. What do you make of what has become of the back and forth before now? And there are those who believe that maybe now the National Assembly will have an easy or a smooth ride in passing these bills.
Well, I think the governors have made some fundamental propositions, including making a case for the continued existence of TETFund and two other agencies, whereas those agencies have been earmarked for guillotine by the committee that made the proposals. So that has to be considered. Then the formula being suggested by the governor will also have to be considered. Then, of course, for other interest groups, their views will also have to be considered. So that at the end of the day, and of course, we also would like to, the governors are also saying, don't increase VAT. And I think that is a major challenge for the proposals, the tax bills. So for me, I think what the governors are saying, and I think that was their initial position, give us time to consider the bills. And I think they have now had sufficient time. But again, as I said, what is important ultimately is for the committee to go back to the drawing table and see how the Nigerian people can benefit maximally from the bills if they are passed into law.
I'd like to know, Mr. Falana, it's a new year, and one we wonder whether or not the government of Bola Tinubu will take advantage of the new year to be able to reset a lot of things that have gone wrong in the economy. And you wonder, inflation, food inflation being a major worry for a lot of Nigerians. Those who are not able to come by a lot of commodities, but food amongst all of these is chief. And you will wonder how people will survive if they cannot be able to feed themselves or their families. You heard the commentary by the Emir of Sanusi Lamido, who is a former CBN governor. I imagine that you were at that event where he was. There are those who are cautioning about the manner in which this government needs to go in fixing the economy. From your own point of view, what do you think this government must do to get it right and set Nigeria on the right pedestal, on the right path in getting our economy right?
The government will have to discard the dangerous economic policies of IMF and World Bank. It's key to the development of our country. The government will have to become a full-fledged member of BRICS. And so you can promote your currency, how you can trade with countries in your currency. And of course, last October, I think October 24th, the Federal Minister of Finance issued a statement to the fact that the government was going to sell oil and gas in Naira. The government must have the political will to do that. The devaluation of the currency must stop. And the floating of the currency. I mean, you cannot leave the currency of your country in the hands of so-called market forces or bureau de change.
Mr. Falana, let's take another break, Mr. Falana. So, let's take another break. When we come back, we'll be concluding the conversation, but it's going to be on a very interesting note. My question to you, Mr. Falana, is something that will get a lot of Nigerians talking about the future of this country. We'll be right back, everyone. So much, everyone. Our closing moment with Mr. Femi Falana. Now, Mr. Falana, there are a lot of people who imagine or were thinking that there is some kind of political coming together of some political forces in northern Nigeria against Bola Tinubu presidency. And some of the decision and policy of his government, especially appointment, has gotten a lot of people curious in that part of the country. Now, there are now those within the political landscape that are coming together, and the talks are that they're trying to form some alliances and form some, to have a convergence, a political convergence against the party or the government of the day ahead of 2027. What do you make of this, and where do you think the average Nigerian stand in all of this politicking?
As far as the Nigerian people are concerned, alliances of politicians of the same ideological hue will not be taken seriously. People want to challenge the dominance of our economy by the United States dollar. People want to challenge the devaluation of the currency, whereby for an import-oriented economy, there is no way you can benefit from the devaluation of your currency. Nigerians want to control the economy of their country. So politicians that are coming on board must be prepared to commit, as it were, class suicide. And I haven't seen that yet. But I'm also aware there are forces in this country today that are also coming together to challenge the implementation of neoliberal policies in the country. And that is where the problems lie. For instance, the budget is based on $1,400, naira to the dollar. But today, it's about 1,660 naira. It may go to 1,700. It may go to 1,800 or even 2,000 naira to the dollar before the debate on the budget is concluded. You cannot run a kalo-kalo economic system and expect your country to recover from, underdevelopment. And that is why Nigerians who are prepared to challenge the ruling party or the government of the day must also be prepared, all right, to address the cause of the economic crisis in our country.
All right. Thank you so much.
Without addressing the political economy, you are wasting your time. And those alliances will not go far if the people cannot see a difference between what appears like 6.5 dozen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Falana. I really appreciate it.
Nigerians would like to draw a line of the economy between the forces of neoliberalism and the forces of liberation.
Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Falana. I appreciate your views and your time tonight on the program. I appreciate it. Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much, Sean. My pleasure.
Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.